Pyrotomsky says, my main point was how are they supposed to prepare you for a world in business when they've never experienced it? I wasn't dissing the quality of teachers overall. Oh, yeah, I hear you. I didn't think you were.
Oh, no, I'll take the blame for that. That's fine.
Sorry, I almost spit out. That's Carter.
Yeah, I was dissing the quality of the teachers overall. Obviously, there's exceptions, right? But yeah. But no, I agree. You can't. This is why, I mean, I don't know if this is still the case as much as it was, but in Silicon Valley for a while, there was a kind of feeling that, how do I want to say this? So startups kind of got popular because there was like some success with startups, and most of the people that were involved in the ground floor or people that were running them didn't have MBAs. They were, engineers or whatever doing stuff. And, they sometimes brought in some MBAs to help, but it wasn't like MBAs were starting companies. And I don't know if this was everywhere, but generally in my circles, at least, there was this feeling of like MBA is like a pretend business person. Like I would prefer someone who's like done business than to someone who like, I got my degree, never done a business, and went and got my MBA, and like someone who's done both, great, right? But there's always these kind of like newbie MBAs who would come around thinking that they know how to do business and know how to run a business, and it's like, well, look, this guy over here ran a pizza shop for 10 years. He's way better than you are, like, because he knows how to run a business. It may be a small business, but he's run a business. And so I feel the same way about real life experience for a lot of things. And business is just one of them. So
this is one of the reasons why when I had my entertainment company, my partner and I, my partner, she's written a couple of books on interning and does a podcast.
An intern.
She was an intern. Yeah. And then we had a lot of interns, and she's someone who speaks about how important it is to have internships when you're in school for whatever it is you're learning, so that you're actually in a company getting that hands-on experience instead of just sitting in a classroom.
Oh, absolutely. And I know some engineering schools do this. I did this when I was an engineer. I worked at Calgon Chemical Corporation, if you can imagine that's a thing. But it was
like Calgon Take Me Away.
Yeah. Although we were building control systems for a paper plant, so it wasn't as exciting as you might think, but chemical control systems. But yeah, I mean, here I was, some kid getting an electrical engineering degree, thinking I was learning stuff. And I remember going to, there was a co-op program, which a lot of engineering schools have, going to work at Calgon. And it was like, oh, this is what the real world is like. This is what it's like to have a job. It was a completely useful and mind-blowing experience. It was nothing like school. And it was actually quite helpful. So yeah, I think for a lot of technical fields, this is why people don't care about degrees as much as they used to, because you have the ability to go join open source projects and have a GitHub repository and show that you could build things and design things, and you've got co-op programs, and you have a chance to get involved now in a lot of things. And so what you've done is much more valuable than the piece of paper from whatever school you went to.
Well, along those lines, I did see some people responding to the Dalton School controversy that we just touched on, reading their list of demands, saying that, great, this will speed up the inevitable decline of these
right.
These elitist
collapsitarianism applied to schools.
Collapsitarianism, essentially saying, great, let it collapse on itself, so that the degrees mean less. Let it all collapse. I was like, well, that's an interesting way of looking at it.
I will admit that my over the course of the last 2 years when we've started to do this, I have moved more. I've drifted more collapsitarian.
I can tell.
because it seems like, look, they're coming out of the woodwork. They're like really pushing for this crap. And it's like, I know this will implode. Like, maybe throw some gas on the fire. And then, I wouldn't speak things I don't agree with. So I'm not going to go pretend to like social justice. But you know, if they want to do this, it's a stupid idea. It'll ruin your school. Go for it. Go for it. Go ruin your school.
Yeah.
The sooner the better. Because by the way, same thing in business. I just there's an analogy here that I want people to think of, because people in business will get this. It's the same reason you don't bail out airlines, for example. You shouldn't, right? When they hit hard times, you need them to die. You need them to die as fast as possible, because the faster they die, the faster someone else can come in, scoop up the assets at pennies on the dollar, and restart a business that maybe can be functional and profitable moving forward and successful. And the longer you throw money at them, what you're doing is paying a failed business model to kind of limp along. What you need is that change. You need this is dead. This didn't work. Let it die. Let the investors who invested that money suffer the consequences of a bad investment. Let it crumble and let someone else come in and restart it. Because by the way, just as the airlines example, the airlines aren't going to go away. All the major airlines could go bankrupt tomorrow. It's not like the planes disappear. Bankruptcy doesn't mean the airports and planes vanish suddenly from the face of the earth. They're still there. They're assets. Someone comes in and buys them. That's what happens. And then they have an opportunity to restructure the business and possibly change the business model and run at a profit and actually build something that's sustainable. But the longer you postpone that, the slower and more painful the death is, and the worse it is for everyone. So that's kind of the philosophy that I would maybe apply to this stuff, which is like, yeah, that's a horrible idea. It's taking poison. Go ahead. Because you're killing yourself anyway.
And the first COVID stimulus package, you know, it was a huge bailout for these airlines like you're talking about.
Yep.
And in the one they just passed, they're giving the peons, they're giving us peons $600
right.
each. And they're giving airlines an additional $15 billion.
Right. And they foist this stuff on you under the guise of, well, you don't want airlines to cease to exist, do you? And regular people are duped by this because they think to themselves, well, golly, we need airlines. Golly, gee, we can't have the airlines go out of business. Golly, airlines don't, like, the planes don't vanish. When an airline goes out of business, rich people who invested it and executives lose their jobs. That's what happens. They lose their money. They lose their jobs. Someone else buys it. Planes don't vanish from thin air just because books don't balance. That's not how the world works. So don't worry about airlines going out of business. It doesn't mean there won't be airlines. It means there won't be these airlines. But there will be other airlines. Someone will repaint those planes. And voila, we'll have a new airline industry that won't need handouts from the government to survive. Sorry.
I like the way you put all of that. I especially liked your imitation of average Americans.
Oh,
although
I'm sorry, average Americans, but really, you deserve it.
It's a little offensive, but
it's offensive, but it's true, right? It's true. And
okay.
if it didn't work, look, if it wasn't true, AOC wouldn't get elected. I mean, that's how this stuff happens. That's how you get people. And it's true because they've been going through government schools their entire lives and no one has taught them anything about business at all. So,
that's true.
Someone can say an airline goes out of business means planes disappear. And people are like, it does? Ooh, that's bad.
Yeah.
Well, maybe one economics teacher could have solved that problem when you were in 6th grade, but too bad. Here you are voting for AOC. Okay.
My dad wanted to know why at my expensive college, which I took a lot of loans out for, and he paid for a hefty amount. I had an elective one year, and this is after I'd already started making some bad decisions, and my minor was women's studies, and he was like, I invited him to come to my elective was African dance. I invited him to come to my recital, and he was like, he was very kind. He came, but he wanted to know why I didn't take economics.
Yeah. Well, hey.
And he was right in retrospect.
Of course he was right. He was right. By the way, I will admit, Rodrigo Seraphim did just debunk my planes don't disappear. He cited both David Copperfield and the Bermuda Triangle. So I stand corrected. Planes do vanish into midair magically, but not through bankruptcy.